The other week we compared both Artemis landers. Now we want to look at a more global scale. The US and partner nations versus China and their efforts to go to the moon. Who is ahead? Are these programs even comparable? Let's find out.
This video is sponsored by NordPass Business.
Current China and moon efforts are bundled in what they are calling the Chang'e missions. The first of these launched in October 2007. Back then, they launched a lunar orbiter. But the efforts of China at this point are more focused on a much more ambitious goal, getting Chinese footsteps on the moon. As of now, they are planning to do this around the 2030s, with some statements even saying that infrastructure might be ready before 2030. For this, they of course need a rocket and a lander. Let's start with the rocket. Two rockets are often named when discussing China's efforts to reach the moon: Zhangzheng 10 and Zhangzheng 9. You might have heard of those through their translated names, Long March. Let's first understand the differences between both. Zhangzheng 10 is a massive vehicle. It will be approximately 90 meters in height with a 5-meter diameter. Its capabilities are expected to be around 70,000 kilograms to low Earth orbit, which would already make it one of the most giant rockets on Earth. It is based on Changzheng 5, China's current biggest rocket, and will be the first rocket expected to bring people to the moon. Currently, the debut is planned for 2027. But if you think that is big, think even bigger. Zhangzheng 9, China's massive, super heavy carrier rocket, is in the planning. Down the line, this is supposed to be the workhorse for their lunar and deep space exploration, and their current design can lift up to 150,000 kilograms into low Earth orbit. That's double Zhangzheng 10. This massive rocket is more comparable to Starship, while Zhangzheng 10 is closer to a Falcon Heavy equivalent. The first flight of 9 is not expected before 2033, and it will not lead to the initial lunar exploration plans for China. Next up, Capsules. The next generation crewed spacecraft by China, which looks very similar to SpaceX Dragon in early renders, is the one that will carry people to the moon. This vehicle was already tested on other rockets, or at least pathfinders to the final capsule. The plan is to launch one of these with the crew to the moon, where it will meet up with the landing stack, launched separately on a Zhangzheng 10 before it brings people to the moon. Like its sister rocket, Zhangzheng 5, the expectation is that the Zhangzheng 10 rocket will be launched from Wenchang. Wenchang is China's newest spaceport on Hainan Island. This spaceport has been used for most modern missions, such as the launches of the new Tiangong space station. The recent Chang'e 5 mission in 2020 also launched to the moon from there. The lander is sadly unknown at this point. Based on comments by Chinese officials, it is expected to be a short-term mission which will not need a super complex lunar lander. So the expectation is that we are more looking at an Apollo-style mission for the beginning of the program and not modern long-term mission like the US is currently planning. To kick it off, NASA already has a bit of a lead with the successful launch of the Artemis 1 mission in November 2022. Das, could you grab that footage for me?
Hey, no problem. We've got some great footage of that. Give me just a second here. Get logged into the drive and the session expired. Seriously? Hang on. Let me get logged back in. Browser, I think I saved. Which browser did I save it in though? No, wait. I have it somewhere. Here we go. I posted. No, that's not it. It's napkin. It's under here. I think it's... Honey, you know what I need? A password manager. If you haven't figured it out yet, this is the part NordPass Business sponsored. There's so many sites and apps and things you have to log into these days, and who can keep track? Much less when you have to share it with a team of people like NSF. So many excuses to just, I don't have time to get all my passwords coordinated, and then you spend 5 or 10 minutes trying to find the password when you could have just spent that time up front getting more organized. And if you're working with a team, it's not just your time you're wasting. So here's what I did. Y'all know me. I used the link below to download NordPass Business. By the way, if you use the link below, it's a 3-month free trial. I used the code NSFFriends to get it installed and activated, and I'm going to spend some time here. So the next time I need to log in to get some footage for a video, I don't feel like pulling out my hair. Also, quick note, this is NordPass Business. It's intended for business users in an organization. When you sign up, it's going to want your business email address, not like a Gmail or anything. I did eventually find the footage, so here you go.
On the one hand, we have SLS, the Space Launch System, a massive rocket that will launch the mission crew to a near rectilinear halo orbit on board the Orion capsule. The capsule will be powered by the European Service Module, which will steer and transport it to the moon after SLS has done its job. Artemis 3 will be the third flight to the moon after last year's demo mission, Artemis 1, and the planned Artemis 2 crewed lunar flyby mission, currently slated for November next year. On the other hand of the program, we have Starship. Super Heavy will launch a lunar lander modified version of Starship to Earth orbit, which will be refueled by a depot Starship, filled to the brim with liquid methane and oxygen by tanker Starships. The juiced up Starship will then fly to the near rectilinear halo orbit and dock with Orion, allowing the crew to enter their lander, bringing them to the moon's surface. Following their stay, the lander Starship will launch from the moon and dock with Orion again, allowing the crew to reunite with their capsule in lunar orbit before returning with it to Earth. These missions are much more advanced and sophisticated, and Starship allows for a much more extended stay on the moon's surface with more payload and potentially more crew members on board. The question we first need to answer here is then, are these two missions even comparable? And the short answer is, it kinda depends. Regarding capability, mission complexity, and duration on the moon, China looks more to be an Apollo Plus style for their initial mission, which is not comparable to the Artemis program's more sophisticated and long-term plans. However, let's look at the science, of course. Like the US, China can bring modern measurements and instruments, which will probably be comparable to the US and partners' capabilities. We already saw science records being broken on the Tiangong space station. So in terms of research, these missions can be compared on some levels. Once Changzheng 9, the much bigger rocket, comes online, we will discuss a more comparable program. With the capabilities of the more giant and reusable rocket, China could also work towards a bigger lander and longer stays on the moon's surface. The question is just how fast can they scale their lunar program into that size? Down the line, China plans to construct the International Lunar Research Station, a lunar base planned together with Russia, Pakistan, and the United Arab Emirates. Of course, with Russia now invading Ukraine, it remains in question whether the partners can even contribute to the station, or if this is more China on its own situation. The US program's high focus on a growing commercial sector differentiates it. With partners such as Blue Origin and SpaceX, the goal is to establish a growing space economy on the moon, just like the Commercial Crew program did for low Earth orbit. If this approach works, it would help the US get more missions to the moon and get funding from the private sector. This approach differs from China's top-down government control approach to reach the moon. Let's look at timelines. Artemis is planning to land on the moon not earlier than December 2025. A reasonable expectation is to expect at least a 1, maybe 2 year slip at this point. So let's be conservative and look at 2027. This still is about 3 years of buffer to the current ambitions of China to land people on the moon. And that's if China hits all of their goals, so the US has still a healthy 30-ish months margin. A significant indicator will be the development of Changzheng 10. Should the Super Heavy rocket fly before Artemis 3 lands, it could significantly increase the chance that China might pull ahead in the race, as it seems that from rocket debut to human landing, they are looking at about 3 years. But China also has to face similar challenges to the US. Spacesuits, rocket development, and the lunar lander's development can be extremely challenging, as this is all uncharted territory for the nation. Some reasonable slips and problems are to be expected. So, where does this put us? The US is slightly to moderately ahead in the race, but any significant delay could change that, especially on either SLS or Starship. The Artemis 3 schedule is very tight right now, and the past has shown that both of the rockets involved are prone to delays. And remember, the US needs both to work. Also, while the West has problems assembling the needed funding from partner nations to underline their moon efforts, this likely will not be a problem in China. So political risks also play a part in this game. In the end, the US will from the start have a much bigger and much more scalable architecture at hand. While China will start with smaller steps first, but over the years this disadvantage could become smaller as the capabilities of the country grow in space. It remains to be seen if the Western partner nations in the Artemis Accords are ready to put the money where it's needed and fund ongoing and sustained efforts to the race to the moon, the first cornerstone to get us to Mars and beyond. What do you think? Who will win this new space race? Let us know in the comments.
Hey, again, thanks to NordPass Business for sponsoring this video. Make sure you use the link below. Also, code NSFFriends. I know you have all sorts of excuses that you haven't done it yet, but I'll do it if you do it. Take a little time, get some passwords organized, and let me know how it goes for you.
Thanks for watching, and see you next time.